You ever sit close enough to a fire that the heat feels like a wall, and the darkness beyond it feels like a mouth? That's how it is down in the swamp. People think a swamp is just water and trees and bugs that won't quit. But folks who grew up there, they know better. They know the swamp has moods, and when it's in the wrong one, it doesn't chase you. It calls you. And if you answer, well, that's on you. Now listen, I'm going to tell you about a man named Cal Braddock and a sheriff named Mara Venn, in a place locals won't even point to after sunset. They call it the Old Boat Lane. They should have called it the Throat. Cal Braddock had a habit that made most people laugh until they realized he wasn't kidding. He counted sounds, not for fun, not because he was jumpy, but because he had spent 20 years doing search and rescue in a swamp that liked to keep what it took. And you learned quick that sound is information. A creak means wait, a splash means movement, and a scream means you're already late. So on the night it started, Cal stepped onto his dock with a lantern in his left hand and old instincts in his right. And the boards didn't creak. Now, you might think that's nothing. Old docks do weird things. But Cal stopped anyway, because the dock wasn't silent the way a quiet place is silent. It was silent the way a room gets silent when someone walks in behind you. Cal shifted his weight again. Nothing. He flicked his porch light switch. The bulb came on, bright and steady, but the click never arrived. Just like that, two little sounds were gone, stolen so cleanly it made the hair rise on Cal's arms. And then he heard it. A bell. One clear chime, polite as a fingertip tap on glass. Cal raised the lantern. A small brass bell hung from his mooring post tied with fresh twine, though not neat and careful like whoever did it wanted to be admired for their work. And Cal didn't own a bell, and Cal didn't touch it. Because everybody in the swamp knows what bells mean in the fog. They mean follow me. Cal stood there watching the dark water beyond the dock. It was black and tight, like somebody stretched it over something moving underneath. The swamp was quieter than it should have been. Then, from the reeds, a laugh answered. Cal's laugh. Not the tired one he had now. The old one, the easy one. The laugh from before the boathouse fire, before the screaming, before the night he quit rescue and stopped believing he could pull people back from places like that. That laugh came again, too perfect, like it had been saved. Cal backed away without turning his back to the water, went inside, locked the door like a lock could matter, and left the lantern burning on the kitchen table all night. Because he knew something then. The swamp was learning him. By morning, Sheriff Mara Venn was on Cal's porch with her jaw set and her eyes carrying the kind of sleeplessness that isn't about coffee. She didn't greet him. She opened her hand. A brass bell sat in her palm. Same size, same twine, same colorful knot. Cal's throat tightened. Where'd you get that? Mara watched his face and didn't blink. On my porch, sunrise, warm like someone just held it. Cal didn't pretend surprise very well, and Mara caught it. You've seen it, she said. Cal glanced past her to the tree line. Moss hung still, no birds. The quiet looked deranged. Last night, he admitted. Mara lowered her voice like the swamp might be listening from the yard. Another one's missing. Cal's stomach sank. Who? Eli Morrow, she said. 17. His bike was found upright at the Old Boat Lane, clean like someone wiped it down. Cal closed his eyes for a heartbeat. The Old Boat Lane. That place wasn't a shortcut. It was a mystery spot. It wasn't even a dare. It was a mouth. And it liked the taste of people. That lane's a trap, Cal said. Mara's eyes didn't soften. Then you know it, and you know how to move through it. Cal started to refuse. Mara leaned in, fierce but quiet. I'm not asking you to be brave, Cal. I'm asking you to be useful, because I'm going in with or without you. Cal looked at her and saw it, that tightness in her posture, like she was fighting the urge to turn her head too quickly, like she was afraid she might hear something behind her that her heart would answer before her mind could stop it. Grief makes you easy to lead. Cal exhaled. Don't bring many, he said. Mara nodded once. I already picked the ones who won't talk too much. Cal didn't smile, because the swamp loved talk. In Mara's office, 2 others waited. Jules Park, a wildlife biologist from Baton Rouge, sat with a field kit and a little recorder they kept touching like a worry stone. And Tanner Rook, local airboat mechanic, leaned against the wall with a grin that looked like it belonged on a better day. Mara laid out the photos. Eli's bike upright against a cypress trunk. Clean chain, clean tires, flattened reeds, but no footprints. Drag marks that didn't look like gator tail or human shoes. Jules stared at the photos. This is an animal, they said. Big animals leave big evidence. Tanner scoffed. Or somebody staged it. Mara's eyes slid to Cal. Explain the bells. Cal stared at the bell on the desk like it might ring by itself. Then he held up 3 fingers. Rule 1, he said. You do not answer a voice you can't see. Tanner rolled his eyes. Sure, ghost rules. Cal didn't look at him. Rule 2, Cal continued. You do not follow bells in fog. Jules swallowed. Rule 3? Cal hesitated just long enough to make the room feel colder. You don't say your full name out there, he said. Mara frowned. Why? Cal's voice came out quiet and sharp. Because names are handles, and something out there likes to grab. Jules glanced down at the recorder. I want to record sound anomalies. Cal shook his head. Turn it off in the lane. Jules blinked. Why? Cal's gaze stayed steady. Because if it hears you taking sound, it takes back. Mara stood. We go now. And Cal felt that old rescue feeling, like walking towards someone else's worst day. Only this time, it might be theirs. Tanner's airboat skimmed across the main channel, fan roaring, water hissing under the hull. When they reached the mouth of the old boat lane, the channel narrowed like a throat. Cypress leaned in, moss hung heavy, the water darkened, thick as steeped tea. The insect song softened, not stopped, softened like the swamp was turning the world's volume down. Then the fog fell. Not drifted, fell. A curtain dropped from the branches. Visibility died at 10 feet. Mara lifted her radio. Dispatch, you copy? Only static answered. Tanner tried to laugh and it didn't come out right. Fog eats signal. Jules whispered. Fog doesn't fall like that. Cal tasted rust in the air. Then the bell chimed. One clear chime, close enough to make all of them turn at once. A bell floated on the surface beside the boat, tied to twine. Then another. Then another. A perfect line leading deeper into the fog. Mara's voice went flat. Someone set that? Cal shook his head once. Something did. Tanner swallowed. So we ignore it. Yes, Cal said. And then the swamp spoke. Mara girl. Mara froze. Her father's voice, exact. Not close, not similar. Perfect, warm, familiar. Mara's breath hitched like her body was already stepping forward. Cal grabbed her by her sleeve hard. Don't answer. Mara's eyes shone with betrayal because her heart wanted it. That's him. Cal snapped. That's grief wearing his voice. The voice came again, closer. Come here. Tanner's breath turned shallow. Jules whispered, It's testing what you'll chase. Beneath the airboat, a knock sounded. Not a bump, a deliberate tap, like a knuckle tapping on a door. The boat rocked. Tanner cursed and pushed the throttle. The airboat didn't move. The engine whined, coughed, and died. Silence slammed down so hard it felt physical. And in that perfect quiet, Cal heard something worse than the bell. He heard the absence of frogs. A swamp without frogs is like a house without breathing. It means something has scared everything else into stillness. Then a voice whispered from the reeds in Cal's own tone. Not his current voice, his old one. You always were stubborn. Cal went cold. Because it wasn't copying sound like a parrot. It was selecting the version of him that would make him turn his head. The fog thinned for one awful second, and a skiff appeared ahead, wedged between two cypress trunks half submerged. On its deck were objects arranged neatly, dry as if protected. Wallet, phone, fishing license, a wedding band placed dead center like an eye, and on top of it all, like a crown, sat a small bike bell. Eli's. Mara made a sound that was half sob, half fury. That's his. Jules stared hard. Those are dry. Cal nodded, because it's practicing. Tanner's voice cracked. Practicing what? Cal didn't look away. Being human. The reeds shifted and something rose, not like an animal lunging, like a person standing up from kneeling prayer. Tall, bent in the joints wrong, covered in moss and ropey weeds and bark, dark skin. Where a face should be, features were half-formed, like mud sculpted into a suggestion of a man. But the mouth was clear, too clear. It opened, and it spoke in Eli Marrow's voice. Thin, scared, pleading. Sheriff, please. Mara took one involuntary step forward. Cal barked, Mara. She stopped, trembling. The creature lifted its arm, a bell dangling from its wrist, tied with twine like jewelry. It rang once, and every floating bell chimed back like a choir answering its conductor. Trade, it said, now in Mara's father's voice, gentle, loving, perfect. Trade and go. Mara swallowed hard. Trade what? The creature tilted its head, patient as a fisherman. Name, it said. Breath, sound. Jules whispered, horrified. It's collecting identity? The creature turned towards Jules and answered in Jules' exact cadence. Yes. Jules flinched like they'd been struck. Cal understood then, clear as day. Small thefts first, clicks, creaks, little sounds nobody would fight for. Then bigger ones, laughter, names. Then the last thing willingly. Because if you gave it your voice on purpose, it could wear you on land. Cal reached into his bag and pulled a flare. Mara saw it and shook her head. Cal, don't. Cal struck it anyway. Red fire bloomed, spitting and hissing, painting the fog like blood on cotton. The creature recoiled instantly. Not from heat, from offense. Its mouth opened and a layered scream poured out. Not one voice, many. A choir of stolen people trying to escape through one throat. Jules gagged. Tanner whispered, "That's them." Cal's voice went low. "That's everyone who's answered." Then the water beneath them made a sound that didn't belong in nature. A chain clinked, metal on metal, old, wet, awake. Tanner, finally scared enough to be useful, grabbed a wrench and slammed it into the engine housing. Once, twice, the sound rang in the fog. The creature's head snapped toward it like a hungry dog toward a dinner bowl. In Tanner's mother's voice, soft and coaxing, it said, "Again, baby, again." Tanner went white, then through clenched teeth, "No." He slammed again. The engine coughed. The fan twitched. The creature surged forward faster than it should have moved. Cal threw the flare into the moss above it. The moss ignited with a wet, furious burn. Light tore a hole in the fog. For one brutal second, they saw the bottom. A sunken platform, old boards, rusted bolts, a chain rig, a salvage route from decades ago. And beneath it, something that wasn't a predator with teeth. It was worse. It was a mechanism, a knot of chain and rope and wood that moved like remembered muscle. The swamp's second mouth. Cal shouted, "Left side cut." Tanner didn't argue. He cranked the airboat hard into a hidden reed break Cal remembered from his rescue days. The engine caught fully and screamed. They tore through the reeds, branches whipping, water hissing. Behind them, bells rang. Not loud, constant. A steady chime designed to make you turn your head, designed to make your mind offer attention. Jules shouted, "It's hurting us." Cal saw the choke point ahead, narrow as a fist. It wanted them pinned. It wanted them panicked. Because panic makes people talk. And talk is a handle. Mara, shaking, shouted into the fog, "Eli!" Cal's blood ran cold. The creature answered instantly, right beside her ear in Eli's voice. "I'm here." Mara gasped. Her whole body leaned toward it. Cal grabbed her shoulders and forced her to look at him. "If you answer," he said, voice hard, "it can follow you home." Mara's eyes filled with rage and grief. "Then how do we save him?" Cal swallowed hard. "We don't," he said. And the words tasted like rust. They burst out of the lane into clearer water. The fog stopped at the lane's mouth and lingered there, white and still, like something intelligent waiting for permission. Sound returned in a rush. Frogs, insects, water. Like the world had been holding its breath. Nobody spoke for a long moment. And then Mara whispered, "It offered a trade." Cal nodded once. "It always will." Jules' hands shook. "If someone pays?" Cal looked at them. "It doesn't just take you. It takes your place." Cal's gaze went distant. "Like wearing you." Search parties went out. Divers went in. Nothing came back. No Eli, no proof, no closure. And the town did what towns do when fear has no shape. They shrank it. They said Eli ran away. They said gators. They said fog makes people imagine things. Mara didn't believe any of it, because she couldn't forget the way the creature used her father's voice. Not to scare her, to comfort her. Comfort makes you step closer. A week later, Mara came home late. She flicked her porch light switch. The bulb flared on, but the click never arrived. Mara froze with her keys in her hand. She tried again. No click. Her throat tightened. She looked down. A brass bell hung from her porch rail, tied with fresh twine, warm like it had just been held. Mara didn't touch it. She stood in her doorway and stared into the yard. The night looked normal, but she knew better now. Normal was just what the swamp used to lull you. From the tree line, a voice drifted toward her. Her father. "Mara girl." Her body leaned forward before her mind could stop it. Mara shut her eyes hard. "Don't answer. Don't answer." Then the voice changed. It became Cal's old voice, the one the swamp had chosen to keep. "Mara," it said softly. "Come here." Mara opened her eyes. She didn't step outside. She shut the door, locked it. Then, shaking, she opened her phone and typed 2 words into her notes app. "Don't talk." She pinned it to the top like a talisman, because silence was the only thing the swamp couldn't mimic. Or so she believed. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail notification, unknown number, 1 new message. Mara stared at it until her eyes watered. She didn't press play, not at first, because playing it would mean letting sound in, and sound was a handle. But curiosity is its own bell. Her thumb trembled. She pressed play. Her own voice filled the room, perfect, calm, comforting. "Mara," it said, using her cadence exactly as if it had always belonged to her. "Open the door." Mara's blood ran cold, because there was no phone hiss, no compression, no little warble. It sounded like her voice had been spoken inside her own skull. Then, under her own words, she heard something else. A soft bell chime. Close. Closer. And in the silence between the words, she finally understood what the swamp had been stealing all week. Not clicks, not creaks, not laughter. Breaths. Short breaths, long breaths. The rhythm of being alive. Mara's hand covered her mouth, not to keep her from screaming, but to keep herself from breathing too loud. Outside on the porch, the bell chimed once by itself, polite as a finger tap on glass. And from the other side of her locked door, her own voice whispered, gentle as a promise. "Trade." If that story made you listen a little closer to the silence around you, don't worry, you're not alone. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, like and subscribe and join us for the next one. Before you go, tell me in the comments, would you answer the bell in the fog? Sleep well and keep the lights low. Good night.